All right, guys, today we're basically gonna, sounds awful. So today we're gonna be doing the impossible. We're gonna be flash tuning my 2020 L5P Duramax right here in the driveway. We don't have to remove anything and send it off to get unlocked. And we can add up to 150 horsepower and 350 pounds of torque and modify the TCM all at the same time, which is pretty significant. Little background, by the way, when GM introduced the L5P back in 2017, one of the major changes on the electronic side of things was the encryption. I don't know what they did, but they put some like hacker-proof coding in there or whatever they did. They made it basically impossible to flash an aftermarket calibration onto the engine control module or the transmission control module. So if you wanted to tune your L5P, basically you would have to take the computer out and exchange it for one that's been physically modified. The same was true for the TCMs for the 17 and 19 trucks, but when the 2020 10-speed automatic Allisons were introduced, there's been no TCM support for those at all on the aftermarket until today. So we have some new stuff from Edge I can't wait to show you. It's an actual reflash process. It's not a piggyback. It's not an inline module or anything like that. We are physically unlocking and flash tuning our ECM and TCM all through the OBD2 port, which is pretty dang awesome. So let me show you the tools that it takes to make that happen. Let me show you the process, and we'll go for a quick drive. I'll show you the results basically. And then if we have time, which we probably will, I'll spend a little bit of more time on my never-ending fabrication process, which is the drag truck chassis for our 1500 horse turbo big block. Anyway, let's talk about Edge. So the Evo HT2 is kind of like the brains of the operation. This is what we're going to use to reflash the truck. It's kind of a basic handheld tuner, a couple of buttons, got a color screen on there. You've probably seen handhelds before. And you could actually tune your L5P with the Evo HT2 for probably a little over a year now. But the only difference between that and this is before you have to send your ECM into Edge for them to unlock it, where now we have the tools to do it right here. So handheld tuner, and then this is some of the stuff, I think they call it their locksmith. This is the TCM cable. This is the ECM cable. That's the little interface wizard brick, whatever you want to call it. This works with both of those. And then you basically follow the instructions. I actually have already gone through the unlock process. It takes probably, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. But once it's unlocked, the cool thing is you can flash it as many times as you want. So right now I already have installed the economy tune, which is like 100 horsepower, but they have a heavy tow tune, a light tow tune, they have an extreme tune. So I'm kind of right there in the middle. If you want to adjust your TPMS, you want to adjust your let's see, tire size, gear ratio, there's a whole bunch of other options, but once it's unlocked, you can reflash that stuff as easy as you want. So let me show you the process, then we'll go for the drive. All right, here we go. This is the first drive of the tuned 2020 AT4 HD L5P Duramax 10-speed automatic. We have transmission tuning now flashed in there. We have the economy tune loaded up, which I think is another 100 horsepower and 200 pounds of torque, which ought to be fun. And it was all done without having to unplug the ECM and send it off anywhere. Like, this was impossible just a handful of years ago, and somehow Edge have done it. So I just got on it a little bit, maybe half throttle. I can already tell that it's going to be a little bit quicker, a little peppier. I think the biggest thing that annoyed me about this truck was, like, say if I'm pulling out into traffic, you know, there's a bunch of cars and you got to get out in a hurry. If you just floorboarded it, the throttle sensitivity was just so awful. It would almost be quicker to give it like 70% throttle than 100%. But of course now we've adjusted that, which again, just on that first little light run, it seemed to be quite a bit more responsive. But the cool thing about what we just did is a handful of years ago, this was impossible. Like when the L5Ps first came out in 2017, they said they would never, ever be able to be tuned with a flash device like we just did. We didn't take the computer out, we didn't send it out, we didn't modify the computer at all, or the TCM. We flash tuned it. We added another 100 horse and 200 pounds of torque on the economy setting. We still have, I think the extreme one above that is like 150 horse. And there's a heavy tow and a light tow tune as well, which we'll definitely use. But yeah, it's so cool that we now have the ability to flash tune these 2020 and newer trucks. So I'm really excited. We're going to let it run through the gears a couple times, kind of do a little bit of a relearn process, I guess. And then we'll have to eventually do some 0 to 60s and stuff like that. But already I can tell, just in that quick little half throttle run or whatever, this thing's going to be faster. All right, give it a quick little rip here. Woo! Definitely pulls good. I like it. So I finished up the tune yesterday. I drove the truck around throughout the day, just doing some different errands and stuff. Probably put 100, 120 miles on the thing. I gotta say, my favorite part is the throttle response on the transients. Like, let's say you're just driving, you know, steady down the road. You wanna pull around another car or something like that. Just kind of that spot where you'd roll into the throttle, that extra peppiness, that response, whatever you wanna call it, that makes the truck so much more exciting, where before it just, like the first quarter of the throttle pedal was just dead. Like it didn't matter what you did, where now you roll into it just enough, it'll downshift a little bit easier to kind of get up and going. And that's the magic of tuning. Like you can change how the truck drives, you can change all its characteristics. I did misspeak though on the power gains. I was actually talking to the guys from Edge yesterday or last night, and the 17 and 19 L5Ps with the Evo HT2 will gain the 150 horse and 300 pounds of torque. But because of the torque converter lockup strategy on the 2020 and newer trucks, the 10-speed, they don't give you quite as much power. You only gain 125 and 275 torque on the extreme setting, and these are the different levels. So you've got your heavy tow, light tow, economy, which is where I'm running right now, and the extreme setting. So yeah, you're down by about 25 compared to the 17 and 19 trucks, but it'll help your transmission last, which, like I said earlier, those 10 speeds, I don't have warm fuzzy feelings about it, to be honest, because I've already put in one transmission when the truck was completely bone stock at 35,000 miles. So yeah, the 6-speed Allisons definitely are much stronger, but I don't know. We'll find out. I think the trans tuning will definitely help. Anyway, now onto the drag truck project. If you're unfamiliar with that, this is a 2000 Silverado extended cab 4-wheel drive chassis. We're converting my 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive. Turbo big block is going to be under the hood. Instead of torsion bars, we're doing some coilover suspension, and that requires a lot of fabrication. We're almost done. So let's just jump right in and continue on with all the fun fabrication. All right, so the first thing we're trying to do is just add a little bit of reinforcement to kind of tie this ball joint box into the rest of the control arm. So not quite that steep of an angle, but something like that. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of a cope on that end, a little angle on that end, weld her in place. That's 1.25 inches. I don't have any extra pipe, but I got plenty of sockets. on the long side, but that radius actually fits pretty good. I'm getting pretty good at that. So I'm curious for your input on an air compressor, because I got that DeWalt over in the corner. It's not big enough and it's loud and noisy. What's a good like 110 volt air compressor? Something that'll keep up with what I'm doing. I want to know. Yeah, it's about useless. Need a sandblaster is what I need. Alright, so I got my braces all mocked up. I'm actually going to MIG weld these in, which I hate to admit because I suck at MIG welding. I really enjoy TIG welding, but I just can't actually get down there good enough with the TIG, so MIG it is. Yeah, you don't want to see that. That's ugly. Hey, roast me. Rate my weld. Go for it. I know they're not off, or they're not great. Take a look at that weld. That's the one they want to see. That's a nice TIG bead right there. Ignore all that down there. My grandpa would say, what did he say? A little putty and a little paint will make it look like what it ain't. Something like that. So that's, I could just take Bondo and like pave this whole thing in. No one would ever know. Another reason why I wanted to add those in there is because you see these two shock tabs right here. This is what holds up the whole weight of the truck, and I figured it might be nice to have a little extra support under this one. So, yeah, a little bit of effort. Maybe made it stronger, maybe not. Eventually, I probably will send these off to get like sandblasted and maybe powder coated or something like that. And the only thing that we have left to do is adjust these lower shock mounts, but I can't do that until we have the shock tower installed, and that is on the way. By the way, Atomic Fab, he's come to my rescue once again. You saw the shock towers that I built, they didn't fit. I was starting to redesign them and stuff like that, but then Richard sent me an email from Atomic, and he said he's actually coming up with a really cool design. He sent me the CAD drawings, so we're really pumped about that. But basically what I want to do now is just get this little frame thing kind of plated in. I already made the filler guy, so we just got to get this kind of ground down smooth because this has to be flush to work with Richard's shock mount. So let's get to it. Alrighty, so I got my plate basically fit up to the hole. I beveled it out quite a bit to hopefully let me put a big fat weld in there, and that way we can grind it off and it'll still be plenty strong because we're tying the plate to the rectangular sleeve that goes through the frame and that all the way to the outside of the frame all at the same time. So not that there's a ton of force going through here, and there will be another plate that goes on top of all of this, but yeah, just kind of bevel it out and fill her up. Yeah, Okay, so control arm is done, frame is plated, welded in, and sort of kind of smoothed out. It looks pretty decent compared to what it looked like before. So it's not the final time. It still is going to come apart probably 3 or 4 more times after this, but this is sort of kind of like second to last mock. Didn't prepare. There. Strong control arm. Ready to go. Guess let's throw the tie rod in next, just to make sure everything sort of kind of fits. Basically, I want to mock up every last bit of steering and suspension on this thing, just to make sure we have no surprises after it's all coated and painted. Just gonna toe in a little bit. Something kind of like that. Also, these tie rods are not gonna last like in the long run. These are just stock. It's actually a 2500 HD outer and a 1500 inner. Pretty sure the 1500 inner is the same as the 2500 outer, but I am doing a Heim joint style tie rod out here. Let me show you real quick though. I ordered one of these this morning, or a while ago. It showed up this morning. I thought it came as a pair, but these are made by Cognito. It's a tapered ball joint to Heim joint adapter. So that'll basically go in there and replace the ball joint. But for now, just to kind of mock everything up and make sure I have clearance, these are $28 on Amazon for the inners for the pair, so not a bad deal for mock up. So our never-ending fabrication process, of course, is still not come to an end, but we got a few more things knocked out. We got the L5P running good and strong, and something cool just showed up, which we're gonna probably start on next time. Right there, we got ourselves a pretty strong axle that's gonna go underneath the Ugly Truck 2.0. I'll tell you all the details about it next time, but it's got some cool goodies in it. It's gonna hold up to everything we can throw at it and then some. So yeah, we're slowly chipping away at this big giant iceberg. Whatever, I used an elephant analogy last time, but progress is progress nonetheless. Thank you guys for watching. If you're new to the channel, if you want to learn more about this truck, I suggest you go watch the video of the engine build, that guy right there, which has been, you have to watch the video to see exactly what's going on. Parts have been killer this year. Anyway, thank you guys. Check out the big block video. Come back soon.